Well, hi again, friends. Today I am up in Saltsburg, Pennsylvania, and I am here with Jack Maguire, who leads the historical work, restoration work that's going on in the town. And Jack's going to tell us about what we're about to see.
Okay. Well, I want to welcome you to the Rebecca B. Hadden Stone House Museum in Saltsburg. We're now in the parlor of the original structure. This building was built in approximately 1830. There's two rooms downstairs and two upstairs. So we'll do a walkthrough of the two rooms downstairs and then proceed into two additions that we've added over the years. In this room, I'd like to point out this wedding vest belonged to Dr. Hadden's family for decades. It was tradition that the men would wear this at their wedding sites. The building was named in honor of Rebecca B. Hadden, who was a well-known historian in Saltsburg and the president of the Historic Society for many years. And her husband was Dr. Tom Hadden, who served this community for many years as a doctor. Another item to point out is the photograph here. It's actually a painting of a canal boat with the passengers sitting on top, making a leisurely trip along the canal that came right through Saltsburg, about half a block from this building. The boat would travel approximately 3.5 miles an hour, and this is part of the Pennsylvania Canal, which went from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. We're in the entry area of the Stone House Museum. There's a photograph here of a couple. This is Dr. Crawford, who came to Saltsburg at the end of the Civil War and set up his office next door for serving as a doctor of the community, and this is his wife. And at the top of the stairs, we have an interesting painting. It was painted of Jimmy Stewart, the actor from Indiana. It was painted by his sister while Jimmy was still in college. He went to Canal College, and so that's kind of a unique portrait that we have here in Saltsburg. We're now standing in the kitchen area of the Stone House Museum. There's a number of items here to point out to you. There's a painting here of a location of the canal in Blairsville, PA, which is just about 5 miles from Saltsburg. We have a collection here of sat irons on the mantle below it. And here we have a sewing machine, Triddle sewing machine. This is dated back to 1858.
My wife would love that.
So this would be pre-Civil War. This piece here is referred to as a dough tray for making bread. So you have the work table, and inside where you put the dough to rise. And next to that is a dry sink. This is before they had plumbing. You have a bowl in here and a pitcher, and this would be in your kitchen as your utility item there. That's all. It was restored by one of our members of our Historic Society probably 35 years ago.
Did some great work.
Yeah. And again, some more kitchen type items. Here's a butter churn, or butter worker, I should say, and different churns and everything related to a kitchen area. So we'll proceed now from the original structure back into the first addition that was added to the museum. We have a model here of a canal lock. This was referred to as lock number 8 in Saltsburg. And there was a structure on the riverside, which the lock keeper, his name was Hugh Kelly. He had a grocery store in that building. And you see there was a pedestrian walkway across the lock. The locks had a stone lining. The rest of the canals were dug ditches, basically. Held 4 feet of water, about 40 feet wide at the top, and it was lined with clay. They referred to that clay as a clay puddle, was the term they used for about a 1 foot thick clay surface to retain the water. And on the north end of Saltsburg, there was a turning basin where canal boats would come through, and if their objective was to pick up salt in the warehouse, which is located over here, they do so, turn around and head back in this direction, take you towards Johnstown.
Mm.
If you came up from Pittsburgh or points between Pittsburgh and Saltsburg, you'd come up. If your objective was to take salt back in barrels, you'd come up and turn and load up and head back the other direction. The canal was wide enough to have 2 boats pass each other in that 40-foot area, and just 4 foot depth of water is always required. Very low draft on the canal boats. And this depicts how a canal lock worked, where a boat comes in, they close the gates behind it, they allow water to come in, rise up, and when it's at proper level, they open the gates, and it proceeds in this direction towards Pittsburgh. We have a number of old high school graduating classes. This happens to be my father's class, 1930. This is my father here. And these banners, he had this in a chest up at his home. I asked him about it. He says, well, when he was a senior, he wanted to buy a class ring, but this is during the Depression era. And so he didn't have the money, so he made these banners on his mother's sewing machine. One of the skills he picked up being an Eagle Scout was how to sew. So he sold these to classmates and raised enough money to buy his ring, and he said he had enough left to loan to some of the other class members who didn't have the money for their
Good
class
man.
rings.
Good man.
This addition was added to the original structure through a fundraiser that our society had, where we appealed to the alumni of the Saltsburg High School to build this addition, and we had a nice response, and we were able to build this addition, which we're very happy to have. From the street, the Stone House Museum looks very small, being just a 30-foot wide structure. But as you'll see as we proceed back through here, we have quite a number of items on display here in this museum. One of the industries of Saltsburg was glassworks. We had a glassworks here in Saltsburg. We have different items that were made here. We also have some decorative items that, interestingly enough, weren't being marketed to sell to customers. They were built by the glass blowers and glass craftsmen that they would make during their lunch period or whatever, and ended up in people's attics, and these are ones that survived. I should say one of the key industries in the early history of the community was salt. Saltsburg got its name because of the salt wells in the vicinity. Salt was of a premium when it was discovered here after many unsuccessful efforts. They drilled down about 300 feet and would pump up the salt brine, put it in a kettle, and boil off the water. And there was a very high quality of salt in Saltsburg. And by 1830, this area was the third largest producer of salt in America. So it was a big deal back then, and what drove the economy of the town for many years. And then once that waned out in the 1860s, then coal became very important. We had a lot of coal mines in the area. We have, I think, a very nice display here of military uniforms. A lot of this that you're looking at right now is from the Second World War. And we have some even older items in a smaller display case to my right. We have a number of photos of some of the soldiers from the Second World War down that lower level. There's two of my uncles. Gilbert Maguire was in the Marines, and Louis Hadden was in the Army. You see memorial here for one of West Point graduate who was killed in the Second World War. He was a pilot. Craig Dobb. His father was the headmaster of the Kiski School at the time. His brother, John Dobb, was also killed just prior to the United States entering the war. He was on a Navy carrier protecting an English ship coming across, and was torpedoed by a submarine, German submarine, and he and all the officers and many of the crew members were killed. That was in 1941. This is in reference to this academy, which Saltsburg was built in 1851, and this picture album was, this is a replica of 1865 picture album of the teachers and students that attended the academy. So the names were all written in here, so it really makes this book much more valuable, that you can really relate to the photos that you're looking at. So that we were very pleased. We bought that on eBay. We didn't even know it existed, but we brought it back to Saltsburg.
eBay is an interesting place to find some good stuff.
Yeah, right.
So this is Chuck Colton at the Stone House Museum, and he's going to talk to us about some metal detecting that has happened in the last couple of years.
Okay, right here we have a display that was made. The metal detecting day was April 3rd, 2021, and we hit 6 locations. Jack Maguire and I were both there, and my coworker Keith Rickabaugh and his father-in-law. Right here in this photo, you can see that we're all there. So we started out at the Presbyterian Church here, and that location yielded the largest number of artifacts, which we have them here on display. There was actually a lot more than this, but these were the most interesting ones. And
So what are a couple of these things?
here you have an old tire gauge from about 1909. This here would pop out, but it's frozen up because it was underground for so long. The name's right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then these here are some old brass locks. Of course, it's only half the lock. And old door latch, pop tabs, which those are all common. And these here are made of copper. When you see these around a house, typically that would be from a slate roof installation. And then you got harmonica reeds.
Look at that.
Here's an old clock, lady's hair brooch. And we have an oil lantern. A wick would go in here.
Sure.
And different pieces of copper. And this actually item here we found in the cemetery. It was probably one of the most interesting items. And the hinge kind of left go, but you can still see the mirror and a little wee puff pad here.
Oh,
It
yeah.
still has the fragrance. I did clean it up. It was pretty green when I pulled it out of the ground, but it fits together like a glove still. So yeah, and then like I said, we did go to along the old Saltsburg Cemetery right here along the edge, and a few other spots. I supervised it. We were just dug right at the surface, but that was the most interesting item. Was that item right there I just showed you. So we also went up to the Academy, which did not yield much at all up there. I think it had been picked over prior. And then the Hugh Kelly Lock Keeper's House, right here along the river. The old foundation, we found a license plate, and there was a lot of metal there. There was just so much there to find. Then we went upriver from Saltsburg here, and we actually metal detected along the canal. Part of the canal still exists, just about a half mile upriver from here. And as you can see, there was a lot of artifacts coming out of the bed of the canal. And on the towpath, this is the towpath coin. It's an 1824 large 1 cent. And here's a blow up of the coin here. You can see it's bent here and here from being stepped on by the mule that pulled the canal boat. And here's actually the coin right here, just to show you the size difference. It's a lot larger than a quarter of today, and still has all the patina. You really don't want to wash a coin of this age, and with corrosion on it like that, you just wash everything right off.
Right.
So it says large. It says 1 cent right on it, right there. You
Sure
can see it's
does.
bent pretty bad.
Yep. And definitely
that's-
bigger than a
that's- yeah.
modern quarter. That's more like a 50-cent piece, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but that's been stepped on by the mules that
Absolutely.
were pulling the canal boats. So yeah, it was an interesting find. Like I said, we had 2 guys metal detecting, and hopefully someday we can do this again. Go back out to the canal path and see what else we can find.
Great. Thank you, Chuck.
Like you.
Here I'd like to point out this beautiful model of a canal boat that was built and donated to our museum. This was built using drawings that were prepared on the Ohio Erie Canal, but it's very similar to what they had in Saltsburg. And just below it, we have a nice display here for a shoemaker. And here we have a nice blacksmith display here. This is a privately owned display of one of our members that does beautiful work on labeling and displaying her antiques. We have quite a history related to coal mining. This would be bituminous coal. It used to be mines in the Saltsburg area. There's a lot of items here that would be part of the industry, helmets, other items that relate to coal mining. And we have a nice display here on Indian artifacts. We have a large mortar used by the Indians for crushing corn. And we have a number of chards and arrowheads, etc. here. And point out this display here on the Civil War. This was prepared by one of our members, Elaine Hess. Did a beautiful job on display. I'll point out this doctor, James Crawford, who bought this stone house at the end of the Civil War and started his practice here. What I found very interesting was that he served 4 years in the Army of the Potomac. He was wounded 4 times, was discharged, and re-enlisted 4 times. And he held a commission. Very brave soldier to have stuck with it to re-enlist 4 times.
There's some neat stuff in here.
And there's another image of that Captain Weaver that was in the Academy book.
Oh, yes.
The Academy was built in 1851 and still exists today.
Good old hardtack. I bet that's just as edible today as it was 150 years ago.
Here's a beautiful parlor organ that has been restored by a couple of our members. On occasion, we have a light up night for Christmas. We have a lot of Christmas trees decorated, and on some occasions we've used the organ and had a little sing along here of Christmas music.
1912 pump organ.
So now we're just about ready to enter the second edition we've added to the building. This is referred to as a Melvin Martin Memorial Room. Melvin was an attorney in Saltsburg and a very active member in our historic society. And when he passed, he left money in his will to build this second edition. Here we might just point out right here, nice display of old children's toys, a lot of them from the 1800s. So in this corner of the second edition, we have a display here of medical doctors that served this community for many, many years, and also a nurse who served in the First World War in France, who happened to be my great aunt. Here's another display of Dr. Crawford, born in 1842 and died in 1891. My great aunt, that's Annabelle Edney Hoffman. As I say, she served in the First World War in France. This doctor down below is Dr. Ralph Lytle, who was born in 1885 and died in 1958. He was a family doctor in Saltsburg for many years. He delivered me at my parents' home up on Chestnut Street. And what was interesting, he had been actively serving the community for enough years that he had delivered my mother 20-some years earlier.
Neat.
And this is his bag, and I'd have to assume that might have accompanied him on the day I was born. We proceed down here, and we have several displays here of the covered bridge we had in Saltsburg, built in 1840, burned in 1922. The construction used a style of design by an engineer whose last name was Burr, B-U-R-R, and they would refer to these various covered bridges by the name of the engineer that designed them. So this was a Burr design, a bridge that spanned the Kiskiminetas River here in Saltsburg. It's a little over 400 feet long. Unfortunately, it burned. There's a photo at the back of the arches that would go from this would be called an abutment to the pier. So there'd be one arch in that configuration. That's an actual photo of the bridge that was here in Saltsburg. And being that long, engineers would come from far away to study this bridge because it's the longest one of its kind. And just unfortunately lost it the way we did. We have some benches here that look, well, they're from a canal boat, so they're special. But these would have been on the deck of a canal boat. You saw that picture in the front room where the people were sitting as they traveled down the canal.
Yep, they look very lightweight. I mean, for what they are.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's heavy because it's solid wood, but it's...
There's only 2 items in this entire museum that we had to pay for or acquire, or purchase. Everything else was donated or is on long-term loan. The Academy album was one, and this sleigh, which was built in Saltsburg. We had a wonderful carriage shop industry here in town, the Clark Buggy Shop. And this would have been built in that buggy shop for a customer here in Saltsburg. And one of the items in the sleigh, this is a foot warmer. This would, you put hot coals in this
Look at that.
ironclad wooden case there.
And then your lady's feet wouldn't get cold.
Yeah, you put your blanket over your feet and be a little more cozy.
That says obituary of E.R. Walter. Is it?
Back in this corner, some interesting items. There's a metal eagle. This was fastened to one of the canal boats. And when I was just a young boy, it was in the library on display, and now we have it in display here in the museum.
Nice. Very nice. I like the stained glass there. That's pretty.
Yeah, a local artist by the name of Kazalenchik made that beautiful job. And this is one of the poles used on a canal boat to push off from the embankments. It was found in an antique shop near Blairsville. And below it is one of the kettles they used for processing the salt. Salt was drilled. We did not have any mines. There's never any salt mines anywhere in the region. They were wells that were hand dug using a spring pole. There's a model here in the back corner that shows a pole up, and on the free end there's a rope that goes down, and what's depicted right there at the base was a 50-pound chisel. And there were also 2 ropes with stirrups on the bottom that 2 men would stand and put their foot in the stirrup and kick down a well. It would be, I could illustrate that they'd hold the rope, have it stirrup, and kick down.
Okay.
Take 9 months to go down 300 feet to get that well. Also, we have an interesting story to tell about this Samuel Kier. He was a very enterprising gentleman who took this crude oil, which when they were drilling for salt, occasionally would run into this murky black material that had no value. It was a menace. It would get all over the sides of the canal boats and the cable tows. And he took that material and refined it into what we know as kerosene. So when you think about his name, that's kerosene.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He's the man. That was in Pittsburgh. He had a little office there that he developed that. I mentioned about this crude oil getting into the canal and getting all over the boats and all. Well, legend has it that there was a film of this oil on the canal, and kids were playing alongside, and it took a lit stick and threw it into the water, and this is in the evening, and it lit up the sky. All this illumination came off the canal from this oil burning. And that spurred this gentleman to think about how he could refine it and make something for light. So when you think about it, with kerosene now on the market, they didn't have to kill whales for whale oil for lamps. They could use kerosene, and he came up with his own patent for the wick for the lantern, which there's an image of that on this back display wall. Right there is his patented wick for a lantern. And we have a display panel. Again, these wonderful displays were made by our member Elaine Hess. It indicates that Mr. Kier was born just several miles out of Saltsburg.
Very nice.
We have a little wagon cart here that was used to take newspapers from the railroad station to the various businesses in town that sold a newspaper. So this was a carriage that was hand
pulled.
Yeah, hand pulled to the various sites. Now it has a home here in the
That would have
museum.
been with this, huh? Roll it over. Or no, that's from the
That's for the horse.
That's from the sleigh. I see.
Yeah. Yeah, this would be the handle here.
I got you.
That pretty much covers the key items here. That photograph is of Melvin Martin and his mother. I mentioned he's the one that left money in his will to build this section of the. What's interesting about Melvin was that from childhood he was blind, but he could. His family's home was about 3 blocks from downtown, and he trained himself to be able to walk from home down to the business area without even the aid of a cane. He counted his steps, and he learned his lessons by having them read to him one time. And several of my uncles would read to him his lessons, and so quite a gifted individual.
Absolutely.
With that handicap. We're in the backyard of the Stone House Museum in a building I refer to as a woodshed. This is a building where we can display all our hand tools. We have some interesting tools here from the 19th century, early 20th century. Over here we have the tinsmith's workbench, octagon shape, where there's a different function at each of the sides. This is a metal brake for turn, 90-degree angles. We have a tool that will make gutters, like the curvature. A very unique bench. I haven't seen too many of these in my travels.
Mm.
And here's a nice drill press, wall mounted. Um,
Oh, I've seen somebody using one of those on YouTube before.
yeah, there's
For
finishing
hand shaping
tool.
stuff, yeah.
And here's a spoke shave and draw knives. This is called a flail. This has a long main stem and a piece that's hooked onto it, and it was to break the seeds away from the shaft when you're harvesting, threshing for wheat. This device here is for picking up a bale of straw or hay. Old rake, fork.
Wow.
Some very old axes of their. That one, number 10, is called a beard axe. You can just kind of see why.
Yep.
And they're all listed there by number.
Ah, let me get that. So there's all of the 1 through 19. And then I'll do a swoop over them all here. You can see what they all look like. There's 1 through 19.
There's a tool referred to as a traveler for measuring. You count the rotations in order to know the distance that you're working with. And a nice display here of different knots. I remember doing this type of display when I was a Boy Scout.
Boy Scout stuff, yeah. This is a wicked looking thing right here. Ooh, you don't want to step on that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We have a scale. You can see the anvil in the background there.
Is this a sharpener I'm looking at?
This?
Yeah, that.
Yes, yeah, that'd be a sharpener. Now, it's hard to depict what this is, but this is a one-man saw for sawing a big log. It's like a pump handle. It's very ingenious how you would clamp the log, and then you could go back and forth and saw through a pretty good sized log with that. And this would be for a blacksmith to work on his tools. You see a number of horseshoes and items that's used by a blacksmith back in the corner. Some garden cultivators above.
Very cool. All gathered from around the area?
Yes, yeah. Oftentimes when we have an event like Canal Days, we have this open, we'll have somebody stop by and say, I have a tool, I'm willing to donate. And that's how we accumulate more.
Neat.
People know that we're going to take care of it, and it's going to be where people can enjoy it. You can see up above we have a number of lanterns, different styles.
Oh, yeah. Neat. The farmer's dream in here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just storage. All right. Thank you for showing us this, Jack. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. So thank you, Jack, very much for the tour of the Rebecca Hadden Old Stone House Museum.
You're welcome.
Very appreciated. It looks like you're very invested in all the things here, and you've done a great amount of work here. And I hope that we can, get people interested to come out. By the way, you guys need to come see this place for yourself. There's a lot we didn't show on the camera, but there's a ton of artifacts here. So come on out and check it out. Thank you, Jack.
I might add that on Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. there's generally some of the historical side folks here stop in. During the warmer months, we're open on Sundays from noon to about 5, but other times by appointment. So anybody's interested, we do have a website that people can go to, and you can contact me for a tour.
I absolutely will link that, the website. And is there a Facebook page for the museum?
Yes.
There is. Okay, we'll get that all linked up in the
Great.
description of the video, so you guys can find those links down below. Thank you for watching, and again, come visit this place for yourself and see it. It's great stuff here. All right, thanks a lot for watching.